Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions. Yeah, the Holy Spirit came through. We're live. 5 minutes ago, the internet wasn't working. It was really fun. Trying to find an electrical outlet that worked. That's the Spirit of God. And we know it's the Spirit of God if we're online or not. But it is beautiful to be able to extend to our mighties and celebrate who we are, identity, true identity. Infinite love that's here, doesn't without limit, and allowing any of those ideas about who we are to just wash away. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for Jesus for showing just such a simple way to focus on the light that we are first above all other things, above all else. Infinite light and the power that has to accept the light. That's it. To cease to deny. I was just working on chapter 14, seeing if there's really so little editing on this book, we're just doing capitalizations basically, I think, and maybe some punctuation, but really not so much. And how really choosing is only ceasing to deny. Since we know as we look as the light of divine being, we can't choose not to be infinite. We are infinite light beings first, above all else. And then sort of the habits of denial. So we keep choosing to interrupt that pattern of denying our divine nature. And to stay focused on the light that we are, rather than on the investment in the experience of darkness. In the light of divine being, can darkness be found in anywhere in our direct experience? Is a single thought more important than infinite light that we see here? A single thought, can a single thought stand before it? Yet we believe that clusters of thoughts can stand before it and hide the light. Can a cluster of thoughts, a bunch of ideas about who we are, all the excuses of why we're not light, do they stand before the light of infinite being? It's just joy to see the humor of it, actually. And then these the little desired experiences, the twigs on the grass of consciousness, the twigs that we pick up and carry around as though they're real, there's something actually happening. So we'll look as the light at lesson 177. And again, Jesus is saying, look again at God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. And be with him, search our minds. I'm searching my mind for little moments of tension, like when the internet's not working first thing in the morning. Or the electricity's not working. And neither is the cold water not working. I'm putting any of that energy right on up there. Having to flush the toilets with a bucket. Any kind of tension around that something could be wrong with the Son of God, because it's that momentary investment. You can see any kind of tension, I'm putting it up. Intention not to be holy. Any intention not to be holy, not to be God is love, and therefore so am I. I'm putting uncompromising love that doesn't know what compromise is. God is but love that knows no compromise, and therefore so am I. Is the light of divine being, do I know compromise? Is it actually possible to compromise this infinite light. Can compromise survive in the light of being? Compromise is that twitch. It's just a habit, though, that the light will help us break through and see that it doesn't actually exist. Those little kind of energies run for a while, like the lights flickering on and off. There is no death. The Son of God is free. I thought we did death yesterday.
Yeah, maybe. I thought we were on 177, but we're on 178.
There's such all good lessons. We might need to do 77 again, but I think it's 78.
Yeah.
78. Okay.
78.
Yeah. I was like, that looks familiar. Okay. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Oh, yeah. Any kind of idea of tension over getting the wrong lesson for the day. Put that in light. Oh, what if I get the wrong lesson today, Jesus? Let's see whose voice that is. Put that in the light of divine being. That we would repeat a lesson. It's actually, you can see, like, if you know what lesson it is and someone says a different lesson, you can just feel the it's all being used in service to look at everything. The slightest tension in the knees, or the elbows, in the forearms, wherever that shows up. Denial of happiness. Wow, that's so deep. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let my mind, not my mind, deny the thought of God. Okay. Is there any thoughts, any beliefs that are denying the thought of God, that this lesson is divine, that this lesson lives within us? Willing to see any thoughts that I would choose over this thought of God. Supreme happiness. Any thought over supreme happiness. First of all, I realized it here. Supreme happiness is an excellent meditation. Supreme, because we're always meditating on what's not happening. So why not meditate on supreme happiness as being all there is, since that's the only thing that's true. Supreme happiness. Let not my mind deny the thought of God of supreme happiness. What makes this world seem real, except your own denial of the truth that lies beyond. Here's the D word again. For me to look at. They're coming up in spades. Okay, that's a denial, that's a denial. We see it now. And again, looking at, even if that tension arises, one thing, find a single tension anywhere that in the body can communicate where the tensions are. It can be used by the spirit to find out where there's an investment in a body, actually. In the experience of body, and that shows up as tension. So let's see, one single tension in divine light together and see how that goes. What but your thoughts of misery and of death obscure the perfect happiness and eternal life that your Father wills for you? Thoughts of misery and death. Jesus goes, slightest tension. As a thought of misery. He's not leaving a scrap in there that denies supreme happiness. Not a scrap. Not a scrap of denial of supreme happiness. And what could hide what cannot be concealed except illusion? Can a twitch hide us from the light? One twitch from the light of divine being. Does the twitch appear outside of us, or does it appear within us as desired experience? We can hear that one from Jesus. This is where you see how powerful our minds are. One thought and you get a twitch. One thought that says no to God without doing anything to God. That's and what could hide what cannot be concealed except illusions? Are all thoughts that deny God illusions? We'll ask that in the light of divine being. What could keep from you what you already have except your choice to see it not, denying it is there? What we already have. Do we already have the light and the light of divine being? Jesus, show me where I'm choosing to see it not. He says instant replay. Whenever you do an instant replay of the past with the thought believed, with any kind of energy, instant replay. Oh, he's given me thoughts of the future. He was just talking about thoughts, the single thought of the future. Oh, that's a twitch. Okay, I'm putting that up. A single thought of a future is a choice to see it not. Not on the table. The thought of God created you. How beautiful is that? So like each lesson's a song of creation. The song of divinity. Then the thousands of attack thoughts that we miscreated to try to stuff that one down. Let's not see that supreme happiness thought at all. Let's see how many thoughts we can crowd in there. Just crowd that out, okay? It left you not, nor have you ever been apart from it an instant. In the light of truth and the light of divine being, have we ever been apart from the thought of God? Honesty, God. It belongs to you. Does the thought of God belong to us? Oh, that's a happy thought. You see, it does. The thoughts of God in the light of divine being, do they belong to us? Yes. So we can look. Let's look at this lesson, see if this belongs to us. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. Because that's a thought of God. Yes. Does that belong to us? Domain of truth. That's ours. By it you live, not live with a little L. We have a little L here. This is a capital L, life. Infinite life. Life of divinity. It is your source of life. The source of the capital L. Infinite, unchanging. So the thoughts of God are the direct pointers back to expression of divinity. Holding you one with it and everything one with you because it left you not. Can a thought of God leave us in the light of divine being and honesty of God? Can we play the abandonment of ourselves through thought game? Not for long. Not once that supreme happiness grows like in our awareness again. The thought of God protects you, cares for you, makes soft your resting place, and smooth your way, lighting your mind with happiness and love. I like reading that again. The thought of God protects you. In the light of divine being, does the thought of God protect us? Oh. In honesty of God, does the thought of God care for us in the light of truth? Always caring for us. So the thought of God makes soft your resting place. Oh. And smooth your way, lighting your mind with happiness and love. Does the thought of God light her? And hear his yes. Hear our yes. Agreement with truth. Ceasing to deny it. Eternity and everlasting light shine in your mind because the thought of God has left you not and still abides with you. In the light and honesty of God, does the light, the thought of God, abide with us? You know those little candles that you get on a birthday cake and you try to blow them out and they keep going? I don't know if you have those. You blow them, it keeps lighting. That's what. That's God in the celebratory cake. The thought of God, it just keeps on going. The light. Who would deny his safety and his peace, his joy, his healing, and his peace of mind, his quiet rest, his calm awakening? Who would deny it? Let's find the one who's denying. Can we find someone who does that in the light of divine being? His quiet rest, his calm awakening. Jesus, can the awakening be absolutely calm? The light of divine. Unless we desire it to be feeling like we're strapped to a rocket ship or some other desire below a level of awareness so we can quickly give over. If he but recognize where they abide. Where does peace abide in our direct experience as divine beings? That's a very rhetorical question. That's a trick question. Where does peace abide? Where does supreme happiness abide? Where does peace of mind abide? Is it anywhere outside the light of divinity that we can find? Hunt for it. Outside. Can joy abide outside of this divine light? Here the answer. Does safety abide outside the divine light of being in truth in our direct experience? Would he not instantly prepare to go where they are found, abandoning all else is worthless in comparison with them? So here's the contrast. Here's the contrast. Abandoning all else is worthless in comparison with joy, peace, safety, peace of mind, quiet rest, calm awakening. Where else can that be found? Here. Infinite light of being. All the power of God. And having found them, would he not make sure they stay with him and remain with them? There isn't a choice to be peace. Let's look in the divine light. Is there a choice not to be peace? In the divine light and honesty of God, is there a choice not to be happy, actually? There is no choice not to be happy. There's only pretend not to be happy. A dream. Okay. That's where the humor comes in. There is no choice in the light of divine being. When we see honesty of God, when we look directly as divine being, is there a choice not to be safe in the light of divine divinity? Can we not be safe in some way? Infinite light, find a way to be not safe. Lay down the arms of worthlessness, the armaments against the light, which doesn't work anyway. That's hilarious. You see, does not work. Impossible. Cannot duke it out with the light. That's what. And then we scream. That's so hilarious. I saw my screaming and yelling, just like he said when he tried to take all the toys away. No, Jesus, don't anything but that. Oh my gosh, so funny. Deny not heaven. It is yours today, but for the asking. Yeah, I was praying on that last night, and I was contemplating like not asking for everything, so that I just put supreme happiness, put it all the way up there, That's it. The only request. That's I'm taking out all the requests, all the other like the list, look, checking this list for Santa Claus. The Santa Claus list. You gotta want this toy. Just like you just shuffle the deck and put supreme happiness right. He said I asked too little, so we're going for the full on all enchilada right there. And that's setting the dial we were talking about. That came up last night, Set the dial on infinite, straight up, supreme happiness. And just don't take your hand over and switch to the other channel. The channel of suffering. Just Satan. That really means following. It can't happen. Supreme happiness abjectly cannot happen without following the light within. Because they're the same. Following the light is following our true self, which is supreme happiness. So we can't run following the Holy Spirit. It's like no way around it. We can pretend like we're not following, but we can never be happy that way. It's just merely expression of the divinity and unwinding from changing the channel. That habit, it breaks that habit of changing the channel off to suffering. Is this I really continually ask, is this divine expression? And listen to the light tell me, because you see these ideas just float by. I recognize finally, early in the course, you probably see this too. You start realizing these are body jobs. It was like these little jobs to go do. I mean, I didn't understand they were distractions. At the time, you start seeing these little assignments, and then it's like, oh, I have to do that. The assumption is you do because we suppressed that we made it all up, right? So I just ask Jesus directly now. We can, because we're the light. If the light's talking to us now and telling us there's only light, then we can talk to the light all the time. And it's here all the time. We can ask, is this expression of divinity right now? Is this what's coming up in the mind? And you get a yes or a no. And that becomes a great weeding. That burns a lot of chaff right there. It actually, I thought it was going to be, at first, because the investment in identity, and I thought, well, but then you see what a relief it is. And then not being sure about it, or just listening, like how much joy there is just listening, find a mighty companion and going, okay, what are we hearing here? And it cuts through all the channel changing. Attempt to change a channel. Deny not heaven. It is yours today, but for the asking. So we just shuffle the deck. Supreme happiness, nothing else. Nor need you perceive how great the gift, how changed your mind will be before it comes to you, which is an abject impossibility within limited, in the fragmented consciousness, cannot conceive it. That's why faith is so important. Faith always points back to ourselves. It's faith in more than we can conceive, because the conception of an idea of who we are is the very denial of who we are. So faith is a way to point back to ourselves with the part of Holy Spirit, Christ's mind, that remembers it. Ask to receive, and it is given you. Conviction lies within it. This is the power of that conviction. You start to see it, the conviction that the dial, I am the self-worth in keeping the value right on that dial of infinite. Infinite, supreme happiness. Conviction lies with, till you welcome it as yours, uncertainty remains. In the light of divine being, is there any uncertainty? So if uncertainty arises, that just means that we took our hand and we tweaked the dial and had an argument with ourselves. This dial, part of the dial, looks better than this. Yet God is fair. Sureness is not required to receive what only your acceptance can bestow. This is a deep one. Sureness is not required to receive what only your acceptance. When we notice divine being, honesty of God, is it merely just accepting that it's there? We don't have to have a surety that it's there. We just can see it's there. But at first, because of all the dial turning, every other point but up. In that case, merely accepting the correction is expression of divinity. And just trusting that one correction. Okay, here's the tension, here's the specific exception. Until we can, as we're starting to see now, this divine light's always here. And now there's the contrast more. But until that scene and where it's really wound into the dream, that desire for that dream, it's helpful. Sureness is not required, because we denied that up so long. So only acceptance right now, and acceptance of Jesus's help in this moment. Show me. Direct looking with Jesus, because that's where our certainty is, with the divine light, that representation of the divine light in our mind. Ask with desire. So now he's taken all the desire that goes out this way and making it single pointed, because desire arises in us. Can desire arise apart from us in our direct experience of divine light? Does the divine light have desire? Doesn't know what desire is. So he's using the power we have in consciousness that's been used to go out this way to project, turn it Let thine eye be single. Single desire. I desire infinite happiness. And put that desire and see how that desire, watch where that desire goes. Infinite. It points right back to infinity. You need not be sure that you request the only thing you want. We're not sure about it because we're more sure about turning the dial to the left or the right. But when you have received, you will be sure you have the treasure you have always sought. What would you then exchange for it? What would you exchange? Is anything of this world worth exchanging for this divine light in our direct experience and honesty of God? What would induce you now to let it fade away from your ecstatic vision? For this sight proves that you have exchanged your blindness for the seeing eyes of Christ. Your mind has come to lay aside denial and accept the thought of God as your inheritance. Just accept it. That feels so inconceivable to a thought of personal identity. You mean I could just accept this supreme happiness? That's it? That's the gig? That's all? And see whether the divine light is going, that's the gig? That's it? That's is divine light going, has any idea about denying what is supreme happiness? No. Now is all doubting past, the journey's end made certain, and salvation given you. Now is Christ's power in your mind, the power of the Christ. To heal as you are healed. The only healing is to see that in the divine light, no healing is necessary, and then let that all healing is of God, of the power of the divine light within. Acceptance, healing is acceptance. For all illness is denial. Healing is merely acceptance of divinity. That takes care. Well, we can ask in the divine light and see that for ourselves. For you are among the savers of the world. This is a good thing to ask the divine light. What is the salvation of the world? The only answer I get is acceptance of divinity. Until divinity is accepted, because we're that turning the dial sideways is trying to find a body to heal, body to save, body, no body. So it's pretty funny. Your destiny lies there and nowhere else. That's our destiny. Is our destiny divine light? Because, I could see that actually, people talk about destiny. What is your destiny? I'm destined to be a doctor, a lawyer, Indian chief. What is the only inevitable destiny there is? Supreme being. That's it. Inevitable. What is the only thing? We thought it was death and taxes, but if we look fast, death and taxes over here, the only possibility is dial up. This is why it's happy laughter. The only inevitability, Jesus says, this is a required course. No place else. Oh my gosh. Would God consent to let his son remain forever starved by his denial of the nourishedness Nourishment he needs to live. This is, again, needs to live with a capital L. The denial of our daily bread, turning the dial to the right or the left. No, thank you. Not interested. No, that's no way. That's ourselves calling to ourselves, saying, time to quit turning the dial. Abundance dwells in him, and deprivation cannot cut him off from God's sustaining love and from his home. Does abundance dwell within our direct experiences, light beings? Can deprivation cut us off from the light? Try as we hide. We're just really going to try really hard for deprivation and see if that can stop. No. Practice today in hope. For hope indeed is your doubts are meaningless, for God is certain, and the thought of him is never absent. Sureness must abide within you who are host to him. This course removes all doubts which you have interposed between him and your certainty of him. We count on God and not upon ourselves to give us certainty. And in his name we practice as his word directs we do. His sureness lies beyond our every doubt. His love remains beyond our every fear. The thought of him is still beyond all dreams and in our minds according to his will. In the light of divine being and honesty of God, is the thought of him beyond all dreams and in our minds according to his will. God is but love, and so am I. Lesson 166. I am entrusted with the gifts of God in the light of divine being, the light of truth. Am I, we can ask ourselves, entrusted with the gifts of God and truth? And hear his answer. And to be entrusted with the gift of God is supreme happiness. Is supreme happiness a gift of God? And hear his answer. Again, he's not saying average happiness. He's not saying a little bit of happiness now and every other day. He's saying full on, full Monty, go for the gusto and do nothing. Supreme. Is he saying you have to do something for supreme happiness? Is the light saying that? So we know the truth in the light of divine being, supreme happiness. So we set ourselves at infinite because God has put the dial on it. The only one that seems to turn the dial is the imagined one. The play pretend. Just because it can and because we like, there's until there's no dial possible. We see there isn't a dial. Let that dial just melt into the infinite light, that it's even possible to turn a dial. Let that melt in. That there is a possible, even the slightest twinge of having a dial that could move off of everything given by God. misplace the dial. It's like, this is, we're going to forget what the dial is, because it takes memory to remember that there is possibility. So put that whole thing, no possibilities. It's a helpful tool in consciousness. This is the program. This is the program to see only that there's light. I'm entrusted with the gift of supreme happiness. Amen. Now that's a lesson. I'm entrusted with supreme. I love you all.